Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. This is episode 96. And we're going to continue our countdown of the 100 greatest Bengals of all time, going from number 76 to 69 today, and jumping right into it. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, go back to the First Star Media page and check them out if you want to see all the previous rankings. We're going with the center at number 76, a first-round pick in the 1978 draft, Blair Bush. The 16th overall pick out of Washington, number 58 there, Blair Bush would start all 16 games for the Bengals his rookie season.
Anthony Munoz, Dave Lapham, the center, and underrated Blair Bush, done a great job all year, Max Montoya, and Mike Wilson, the offensive front five.
The unit gelled in their second year together. Bush, Lapham, Bujnak, and Montoya, Wilson, Moore, and Obravich all contributed. An open running lane.
His rookie campaign would lead to Bush making the Pro Football Writers Association all-rookie team in 1978 and lead to him playing and starting 5 seasons for the Bengals, playing in 68, starting 65 between 1978 and 1982, obviously culminating in that 81 Super Bowl season for Cincinnati. Great offensive line, overall great team, obviously, but Bush was at the center of it all, an athletic mover, polar in space. They'd use him in a lot of creative ways to help block the backside. You'll see this a bunch in the clips that I've got collected here. And for an offense that was eventually considered the West Coast offense, really the Midwest offense, right? But they needed their center to be able to get out in space, be able to move on these screens and pulls and backside cutoffs and things like that, reach blocks. It was very important for the Bengals to have a good center.
Both offenses going to the big backs early. Muncie with a couple of good games, but Johnson gets a huge hole on the left side behind Munoz over there. Breaks. They came with the 3 wide receivers on the same side. They're attacking a pass defense that was last in the NFL, and they show you how to do it right here. Just hanging on to the football. 19 yards on the play.
Another angle.
And 2 tight end lineup. 1 lone setback. Anderson moves, scrambles, throws. Hollinger, Dan Ross, the tight end.
In all, Blair Bush would end up playing in the NFL for 17 seasons, playing in 246 games and starting 161. Those 246 games played ranks 3rd all time for centers. After he left the Bengals after the 1982 season, he signed with the Seattle Seahawks, going back to Washington, where he played college football, obviously, and played there for 6 years. He has been honored as a 12th man and a ambassador for the Seahawks since then. So a great player in their history. Started with the Bengals. He ended up going to Green Bay for 3 years and playing with the Rams for 3 years as well. And the Bengals have had a lot of good centers in their history. It was surprising to me. I didn't know this going in, but then when the rankings, when I did it and formulated it, and then started watching the old games and clips of these guys, Blair Bush really stood out as not just an athletic guy, but a really strong run blocker.
Champions of the AFC.
Blair Bush was the 7th offensive lineman featured on this top 100 Bengals list, and one of the many first-round picks that the Bengals have had featured in the top 100, which probably speaks well for the franchise. As you know, if you're getting your first-round picks here, that's obviously the goal. We're going to continue that with a first-rounder that from a early, I mean, this is my generation now, first-rounder, but this guy would probably be top 25 had he played his entire career with the Bengals. Blair Bush might be too. He had a long career, but at number 75 is Jonathan Joseph.
The 24th choice in the 2006 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jonathan Joseph, defensive back, University of South Carolina.
Punt.
So Joseph has had a nice game, including the fumble return for a touchdown.
Well, he's really been a difference maker. You see him, the effort has been outstanding from Jonathan Joseph. I mean, he's been flying around, diving, making plays in the open field. And then, of course, the instinctiveness, picking up this ball, scooping it up, and he's off to the races for a 65-yard touchdown. That really has got this football team right back in this game.
Jonathan Joseph would go on to play 16 NFL seasons, playing in 211 games, starting 192. For the Bengals, it was a 5-year span, his rookie contract basically, 67 games played, 58 starts. In those 5 years, though, he would record 14 interceptions, 273 tackles, 3 fumble recoveries, 4 touchdowns, 76 passes defensed, and would form one of the best corner duos the Bengals have ever had. We're going to see a couple more of them on this list, but Jonathan Joseph and Leon Hall were really, really good together.
McNabb fires, intercepted it, deflected off Curtis, and is picked off by Jonathan Joseph, tackled by Deshaun Jackson. Third Eagles turnover of the first half.
Picked off, look out, this should go for a touchdown. Jonathan Joseph returns it for the score. To 9, 30-yard run back and a touchdown by the Bengals, back in it.
The former first-round pick was drafted to compete with 2 guys already on this list, Torrey James and Deltha O'Neal. When Joseph was drafted, those guys were getting older in age and their contracts were running out. So Joseph was directly brought in to replace them, and he started his rookie year. And his span, while only 5 seasons with the Bengals, that's a great trio to start with. It ended with Leon Hall and Pac-Man Jones on the other end or on the outside corner spots with him as well. So he played for some very good defensive back rooms for the Bengals in just his 5 years. And he was a very, very good player in that span. When he walked in free agency, the Bengals basically gave that contract to Leon Hall. Joseph only ended up playing in 1 playoff game with the Bengals in 2009. He ended up playing in 9 playoff games in his 6 years with Houston, playing so well, being an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler there. If he would have had that same recognition in Cincinnati, he'd be much, much higher on this list.
Oh, picked up! What a play! Jonathan Joseph steps in.
Okay. Players respond to that, though. 3rd and 7.
Picked up! Joseph again! Touchdown, Cincinnati!
Jonathan Joseph was one of my favorite players during that era, not just because we share a name, but because he and Hall and Pac-Man, I mean, that trio, you just felt like that team, like, throw against us. I want you to put the ball in the air against these guys because they were going to make more plays than they let up. And it was just a good time and a fun time to watch this team. Moving on to the list, though, to the next guy at number 74 is one of the original Bengals, 1968, 6th-round pick, offensive lineman, the 8th offensive lineman on this list, Howard Fest. Howard Fest, number 72 there, was a tackle guard out of Texas. The upstart Bengals, 1968, their first year, so a lot of their young players ended up starting for them in 1968. Not a lot of them continued to start years down the line, and Howard Fest did, playing for the Bengals between 1968 and 1975, playing in a total of 127 NFL games between the Bengals and the Bucs. The Bucs, when they started too, he ended up playing for 2 developing franchises when the Bucs had their draft and had to take players from every team. They took Howard Fest, who reportedly was very, very sad to leave the Bengals at that time, and ended up playing a year in a game for the Buccaneers between 76 and 77. Fest was given the nickname Mr. Consistency by his teammates because he never missed a game in his 8 years with the Bengals, playing in 112 in Cincinnati. Fest would start his career at right tackle and then ultimately move to guard to finish out his career with the Bengals. We showed one of his teammates earlier in this process, Pat Matson, as guard, pulling and getting kicked out and blocking in space a lot. Well, Fest on the right side was the power guy. He would down block and wash out the defensive lineman to allow guys like Matson to kick out and get out in space. He started his career as a tight end in college, but ended up being a very powerful run blocker.
Rolled to his left and plowed into the end zone to bring the Bengals within 3 points. Bengals bounced back with a rollout passing attack based almost entirely on the fine receiving of a rookie from Utah named Speedy Thomas, number 17. The Lisk to Embry combination offset the otherwise brilliant performance by the Bengals' Greg Cook, number 12, and Speedy Thomas, number 17.
And Isaac Curtis, 85, is to the right. The tight end is Trumpy, 84. That's Essex Johnson coming through at the 40 and just upended there.
This is unfortunate. Here's a replay of it. This is a misdirect. You're hitting away from the flow. They break the gap. Missed by 3 yards as Kurtz.
The Bengal offense was not as spectacular as the defense, but they too put points on the board. Running back Doug Dressler, a 3-year veteran from Chico State College, scored 3 times while passing. And Virgil Carter entered and ran Cincinnati back into the game. '23-year-old Ken Anderson had 2 touchdowns called back in the previous game against the Giants.
One of the more interesting things I've learned while doing this series is that Paul Brown would have his guards alternate and would rotate them in and off the field because he would relay the plays to the guard. The guard would run into the huddle and give it to the quarterback. So when you see here in these clips, if Madsen's running on and off, we started it with one and end it with here, he's next to Paul Brown. It's because that's exactly what's going on. The next player on the top 100 list is one of the biggest Bengals names of all time. If you asked an outsider to name top 5 or top 10 Bengals that they know, this player is going to be ranked pretty highly amongst them. And as a player I've gotten to meet, this guy I really like. I've got his jersey from back in the day. And number 73 is none other than Micky Woods.
And one of Cincinnati's finest restaurants was quick to create a dish in his name.
It's great. You know, every time I go into the precinct, they give me a free chicken Micky, so you can't ask for much more. I love the town of Cincinnati, and I'm pretty sure the town of Cincinnati loves me.
Woods led the nation in rushing as a senior at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, but was only the 31st player chosen in the draft. The Bengals brought him along slowly, and Micky's patience with them paid off.
Number 30, Micky Woods.
Rookie running back Albert Micky Woods shared his teammates' dogged determination.
I didn't really start the first 5-6 ball games of the season, and I gradually worked my way into the lineup, and I started running hard because I had a mission really in the NFL to get up here and prove to myself that I could play at this level. I just went in there and I went crazy. I just said, oh, this is my opportunity, so I have to make the best of it.
In week 6, the final ingredient was added to this explosive offensive mix.
Handoff goes to Micky, left side, he is down, touchdown! Micky Woods through the left side.
We were sitting around, you know, just joking around, listening to some music. I said, watch, when I score tomorrow, I'm going to do this crazy dance. And my mom said, boy, you better not get out there and do that dance. But when I scored, I did the dance, and it kind of like took off like wildfire. I didn't expect it to take off like it did.
Nor did the Bengals expect this second-round draft pick to lead the conference in touchdowns. But with a big, fast fullback factored into an already potent attack, his league-leading 5.3-yard rushing average came at the expense of whoever ventured into his path. "126 yards for Micky Woods.
Get in that end zone. Esiason gives the ball off to Micky, left side, touchdown, Micky Woods. The Bengals raise the
But the biggest game of all was still to come.
The Bengals displayed their demolition offense in the first half, and Micky Woods, number 30, was the wrecking ball. Cincinnati muscled the 49ers and pounded them behind a mammoth offensive line that deployed the most advanced weapons in the arms race.
So why doesn't Micky Woods rank much higher for our list? Well, it was just really the one season. Yeah, 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. He was second team All-Pro, Pro Football Writers Association rookie team. The injuries and the longevity wasn't there. Ended up only playing 4 years for the Bengals, playing in 37 total games. Micky Woods, his name and star power is why he ends up ranked on this list at all. I mean, honestly, just because of the 1 year. Great year, Super Bowl year. That's enough, plus the name and somebody that everybody knows just outside of Cincinnati and still within Cincinnati, still a part of the team and the aura and everything you see with the Bengals. And sticking with that team in that Super Bowl, number 72 is wide receiver Tim McGee.
The following week, it was the offense's turn.
It's a four-man rush, steps up in the pocket, looks, fires it upfield. It is caught by McGee. He's at the 50, down to the 40, to the 30.
3 Boomer Esiason touchdown passes put big points on the board.
5 touchdown. The noise down there. Eddie Brown comes in motion. Boomer's going to have to throw into the end zone. Touchdown right against the end line just before he was flattened. Touchdown to Tim McGee.
Hand off again to Brooks. This time there's McGee. Oh, Boomer keeps the ball way down the field into the end zone. Yeah! All right!
Timothy Dwayne Hatchet McGee, Tim McGee, was a first-round pick for the Bengals out of Tennessee, the 21st overall pick in the 1986 draft. In 86, he'd be the NFL kickoff returned yards leader, but his impact will be felt as a deep wide receiver for this team. In his 8 years with the Bengals, Tim McGee would catch 282 balls for 4,703 yards and 25 touchdowns. He would leave the Bengals after the 92 season, go to Washington for 1 season in 93, and then come back to the Bengals in 1994, playing in 14 games, but just catching 13 balls and 175 yards. His best year, though, was in 1989, where he caught 65 passes for 1,211 yards. That's an 18.6 yards per catch average. That's after the 88 season, where he averaged 19.1 yards per catch. Those 2 years together, just absolute down-the-field weapon.
And Esiason throws it long for Tim McGee. He's got it for a touchdown.
Give it a go, but he was sitting it out with a sprained left knee. Bengals possession, little flea flicker. Harold Green back to Boomer Esiason to Tim McGee. It's a touchdown, and we're tied at 7.
2 plays later, David Klingler hits Tim McGee. It's 10-3 Bengals in the lead.
The backfield in motion. Quick pass, touchdown, McGee.
Who they think is gonna beat them Bengals when they play in the jungle?
Now a player from the previous Super Bowl, the 81 season. He played before that and after too, but one of the coolest players on this top 100 list, maybe the most interesting because of the positions he played. And we have our second special teamer on the list, and you guys guessed it in the comments. It's Pat McInally at 71. The 5th round pick in 1975 out of Harvard, Pat McInally would be the first team All-Pro punter and Pro Bowl punter in the 1981 season, and eventually part of the Bengals' 50th anniversary team. But he was much more than just a punter.
McInally, the league leader this year, and a Pro Bowler, sends a floater. That's Riddick at the 35.
David Burson. Ken Anderson cashed in on a pass to Bengal punter Pat McInally. McInally is a Harvard grad with a body like Ichabod Crane and a backward spike he calls the Ivy League revenge. Cincinnati turned game 5,000 into a 27-7 runaway over.
A man with less heart and courage would have quit after this play. But Pat McInally refused to stay down.
The Browns lead it 24-17, and the Bengals have got their work cut out for them. Thompson back to throw.
Cocks his arm, goes far downfield. There's McAnally. Catches it down at the 10-yard line, 5, and goes down at the 2. A great catch by Pat McAnally. It's a touchdown. He made it in. McAnally, who was knocked out of the ball game and had his neck x-rayed in the first half, has come back and just made a magnificent catch along that far sideline. That's got to be some great revenge for Pat McAnally. An absolutely great throw and great catch.
That's right. Pat McAnally was a punter and wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals during his 10-year career, where he played 149 games for the Bengals between 1976 and 1985. This college football Hall of Famer punted the ball 700 times with a 41.9 average. 157 punts landed inside the 20 and only 82 touchbacks. McAnally was a very good punter, but what makes him special is that he did play receiver, catching 57 balls for 808 yards and 5 touchdowns in his career. He also had 5 carries in his career, but he also not just caught and ran the ball. Pat McAnally attempted 4 passes, completed 3 for 81 yards, mostly on fakes, which were highly effective for such an athlete at the punter position. And McAnally's versatility and character seem to be well respected amongst his teammates. You see after a lot of these catches, you'll notice the team rallying around him, not just after the one where he was knocked out of the game and had to get his neck x-rayed, but in a lot of his catches, I don't think he was expected to make them, and he did. And his teammates would run out there, high-five him, jump on him, and just celebrate with him. And it seemed like a very fun thing to happen. Pat McAnally, one of the most unique players we'll get on the Top 100 Bengals.
A pass to Pat McAnally added to an outstanding 278-yard passing day for Anderson. McAnally's 24-yard reception.
Degree below zero chill factor right now. You talk about warmth. They're bouncing up and down with it on the Cincinnati sideline.
The final seconds in Cincinnati. McAnally with his kick away. And when it comes down, the Bengals are champions.
And we'll end today's episode with 2 more players, but they're of the same position. And it's 2 linebackers that started with the inaugural Bengals in 1968 and then all the way up to that 81 Super Bowl team. We'll see the 2 of them, long time, 19 years combined in Cincinnati. We'll start with, I didn't even want to split them. I almost said the lesser of the 2, but we start with number 70 because that's how numbers work. It's Glenn Cameron. It's another first-round pick on this list, 1975 out of Florida. Glenn Cameron would play 11 seasons for the Cincinnati Bengals until 1985.
Front lineman, Bo Harris, one of the 4 linebackers, with Jim LeClaire, the leading tackler, Glenn Cameron, and Reggie Williams, who leads the Bengals in sacks. Brooks. He didn't make it. And now listen to Cincinnati.
The no man's land between the defensive line and the secondary was patrolled by the linebackers. An eager young defense with 7 starters under 4 years' experience. The Bengals flexed their defensive muscles for round 2. Glenn Cameron led all the linebackers with 3 interceptions. The excellent play of number 50 helped Cincinnati have top-notch linebacking despite several injuries.
3 wide receivers. T-Bell in the slot. Bradshaw, the heat is on. Release is intercepted. Glenn Cameron brings it back to the 28-yard line, and Cincinnati has another turnover from Pittsburgh. The interception by the 6-year veteran out of Florida, linebacker Glenn Cameron, and Bradshaw threw it right in his hands.
Houston then made the first of several key mistakes that would change the direction of the game. Number 50, Glenn Cameron, gave Cincinnati good field position with the interception.
John Elway takes a look long, fires down a great interception by Glenn Cameron, inside linebacker for the Bengals. So twice now in the first quarter, the Bengals stop.
Cameron would play his entire career for the Bengals, playing in 159 games and starting 103. He had 5 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, and 7 sacks during his career. Cameron would play in 5 playoff games when Cincinnati, 1 in 75, 3 in 81, and 1 in 82.
Our guys, for some reason, they know that they must play their best football against Pittsburgh. Otherwise, they're going to get beat. And they're not only going to get beat by the score, they're going to get beat physically. And they understand that.
I feel like we don't see enough great historic linebackers wearing number 50. And for the Bengals, Glenn Cameron wearing that looked really good in their 3-4 defense where they sported 4, a lot of times, really, really good linebackers. The next guy here, number 69 on the list, is a guy that I didn't really know much about. I remember seeing some of the big games and hearing his name. But then when I watched him and then watched an interview with him later in doing this process also, I became a really big fan of number 58 here, ranked number 69, Al Beauchamp.
In 1968, I was fortunate enough to be drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, which was a startup franchise by the legendary coach Paul Brown. And I played the game not for Beauchamp, I played for the fan.
6 times they picked off San Diego passes. Number 58, Al Beauchamp, came up with 2 and a pretty good spike to boot. It was only fitting that the defense capped their success with a score as Beauchamp put it all together. Good theft, good run, and a great spike.
I'm one of those type of individuals that, like to be seen, but a quiet guy.
Number 58, rookie Al Beauchamp. Unfazed by pressure, by his elders, or by the niceties of discussion, Beauchamp personified the spirit of the linebacking corps.
The 5th round pick in the 1968 draft, number 58, Al Beauchamp, would play for the Bengals for 8 years between 1968 and 1975. He played in 111 games and started 107. So very early in his career, he was a starter, consistent starter, and durable starter for the Bengals. He recorded 15 interceptions in those 8 seasons, had 2 touchdowns, 2 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries, and another touchdown on a fumble return. This includes 8.5 sacks as well. The Bengals ultimately traded Beauchamp to the St. Louis Cardinals in 1976 for a 4th round draft pick. But in his entire career, he only missed 1 game.
But I was that type of individual. I got to the stadium early. I was probably 2-3 hours early because I would go out on the field and I would walk around the stadium, talk to the fans in the stadium because this was their time.
Today's episode of Bengals on the Brain brought to you by First Star Logistics, focused mostly on players from the 70s, a couple players from the 68 opening season of the Bengals, and then a couple others from it always is going to end up focusing around the 81 and 88 seasons in a lot of ways. And I think we did that in this episode. Next week's episode, next Tuesday, is going to be very heavy on guys from the 2000s. There's a couple players outside of that, but 6 of them, I believe, are going to be players that you should know or probably do know if you're a Bengals fan and not just joining on the last few years, which you have. If you have, that is perfectly okay with me. And this is the episode and off-season content for you. Until next time, Hoo day.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.